Before we begin, I'm fully aware that I'm a white, middle-class, cisgender, straight male, and that I'm trying to share something on inclusion. I'm increasingly aware of the privileges that I have and how the Western world has been structured in such a way as to favour people like me. Historically, groups of people have been taught to be ashamed of who they are and to strive to be more like me. For that, I'm sorry. Because of that, I'm in the privileged position that I am, and for that I'm sorry. But because the dream is that none of us should apologise for who we are, that we're all recognised as beautiful in our humanity, I will not apologise for who I am. What I'm committing to, though, is using my awareness of my privileges and finding a way to use those not for the benefit of myself and those who are like me, but to try and influence the world around me, to be about equality and diversity and inclusion. I'll mess that up sometimes and I'll have to apologise, but I want to try. What follows is largely illustrated from a starting point of thinking about race, but the underlying principles of courageous inclusion apply to everything. Gender and sexuality, race and religion, different abilities, languages, and all those other things that deserve to be celebrated as part of our individual identities. Anthony Reddy is a black theologian. He's not a theologian who happens to be black, but his area of expertise is black theology in a British context. Black theology is the study of God as revealed in the person of Jesus in light of the experiences and struggles and oppression of black people through history and in today's society. Where theology has traditionally been done by white people who've subsequently painted Jesus and God as white too, black theology asks the question, if this God is real, and if this Jesus has something to offer, what is it that is being offered to black people? And in other areas of theology, anyone who's not white, male, cisgendered and educated, what does God have to offer them? He wrote a book called Is God Colourblind, where he says that if there is such a thing as a creator God who is responsible for the beautiful diversity of creation, then such a God cannot be colourblind. But he goes on to say that if that God is all-loving, as evidenced through the person of Jesus, then that same God cannot be found in the prejudice and oppressive acts that have been done in his name. And the God that has been used to justify oppression is always a male God. Ultimately, his point is this. God celebrates and loves the diversity in creation and in no way endorses any theologies or ideologies that use that diversity as a way to rank humanity or to exclude anyone from knowing love and finding life in all its fullness. Anthony Reddy uses some exercises to help groups think about racial identity, about what it is to be human, about why it's important to acknowledge diversity and move beyond the way we have used it to group and rank and sort people. Instead, we need to be recognising humanity, dignity and worth in who we are and who our neighbour is. One of his exercises revolves around a club eating together. I can't do it justice here, but I think eating together is a good analogy to help us think about inclusion. So imagine that you and I are part of a same club and we have a weekly meal together. Scenario one is this. The time and the place is set at a time that suits me because the club was built by people like me and that's the way it's always been. You're welcome to come, assuming you're available on my timetable and that you can get up the stairs to get in. Everyone attending will pay the same for the meal and the menu is set to my favourite food. So we'll be having mushrooms in breadcrumbs for starters. Steak, cooked medium rare only. Mashed potato made with double cream. And those tiny little carrots glazed with honey and peanut oil. Dessert will be sticky toffee pudding and custard. Fussy eaters are welcome to come, including those with inconvenient allergies that may or may not end in death. But you'll just have to work round the set menu as nothing will be changed for you. That's too inconvenient. We live in a society which is invariably painted the same way we've been taught to see God and favours those that look most like that image of God. White, male, cisgender, educated, able-bodied. God and society as we have built them are both exclusive rather than inclusive. To a degree, anyone is welcome to be part of society as long as they're happy with the systems that were built to favour people like me. As long as you comply and don't kick up too much of a fuss, you'll be tolerated, but don't expect anything to change. As long as you're still happy to chip in with the cost of everything, regardless of how many benefits you get out of the system though, because I don't want to have to pay for you not to eat a perfectly good meal. This scenario perhaps seems farcical to some of you, but when you apply the principle to basic human rights, political representation, and general societal liberty, those sorts of restrictions and conditions are often a reality for those who didn't hit the normative jackpot that I did. What about scenario 2? The time and the place is set at a time that suits me because the club was built by people like me, and that's the way I've always known it. You're welcome to come, assuming you're available on my timescale and can get up the stairs to get in. Everyone will pay the same for the meal, but upon arrival you'll be given the choice of 2 meals. One is a meal that's perfectly acceptable to everyone and can be tweaked according to allergens. The other is your favourite meal. Whatever you like, your choice at no extra cost to you. But it would be a lot easier if you could have the set meal, because that's more convenient and would suit most people better, and it wouldn't require too much extra work. But if you're sure that's what you really want, then we'll do our best to accommodate you and your favourite meal, and I guess everyone else will just have to wait until your food is done in order for us all to eat together. That's an example of fake or token inclusion. It recognises diversity but doesn't really want to accommodate and definitely not celebrate it. Diversity and people who are different are inconveniences to be tolerated. We'll make token gestures to placate them a little, but they need to know that it's a big deal that we're doing the bare minimum to include them. The reality is we'd far rather they just fit into our norms or went somewhere else. You might think that there is a way for those who are different to still get what they want or need out of this meal, and you're right, but it takes a lot of self-belief to stick to your guns. In a world where many are taught that their value is less because of their identity, more often than not because of things at a genetic level, many people will revert to the idea that they're not worth the extra effort, not wanting to stand out as a troublemaker or do anything else that causes others to dislike them anymore. Because the system's built around people like me, and because I feel that I'm entitled to whatever I want, then it's perhaps easier for me to order something different, to seek out something more to my tastes in that moment, and therefore make the system problematic, but to my advantage. But ultimately, it will still be someone else's problem if they start moaning. This scenario perhaps seems farcical to some of you, but when you apply the principle to basic human rights, political representation and general societal liberty, those sorts of restrictions and considerations are a reality for those who didn't hit the normative jackpot that I did. Let's try scenario 3. This time, the time and place is set by us together, based on our availability and our accessibility needs. While some may still struggle to be part of what we're doing every time, we will plan in a way that is most accessible to the most groups, rather than just the preference of one group. Logistically, it may take time and planning, but we'll do that together and it'll work out fine. And then next time we'll prioritise the inclusion and the needs of those not able to make it this time. Everyone will have their opportunity to be there and to share in the meal. You're not welcome to come because that implies that this isn't your thing. Instead, we're hosting this thing together. There's no set menu and everything costs the same. The world is your oyster, so to speak, and you can have whatever you want to eat. There's no judgment in ordering something simple. There's no guilt and shame in ordering something more complicated that suits your needs at the time. You need your meal to be halal or kosher. We can cater for that. You have a nut allergy that means there can't be nuts at the table? Okay, because I value you, I'll forego my deep battered Snickers. You'd rather there wasn't alcohol because your family has a history of addiction and subsequent abuse? I hear you, and we'll stick to soft drinks. You need to leave early or unexpectedly because you've got an early start tomorrow or a child to look after. You're a carer. Something important to you has come up. You'll genuinely be missed. Make sure you take your dessert with you, and we'll be round tomorrow with an extra meal to help. Do you want the same again? You can't make it this time? That's a shame. How about we deliver something to you? Scenario 3 is courageous inclusion. This sees a system that is wrong and rewrites it from the ground up. It recognises the barriers to those who are other and is truly accommodating. It shifts perspective from the ownership being by one group of people to ownership by everyone. It shows awareness of the needs of others and is willing to make changes to our own situations in order to ensure others are safe and valued and fed. It goes beyond the meal to the life around it, and beyond it to communities present and those that are hidden. Scenario 3 is the dream, not just for a meal and not just for a club, but for the world. The club we all belong to is humanity, and we are all members. We bring our own uniqueness to the mix, and that is to be celebrated as part of the divine mystery of the God who brings us together. The meal is any reason for which we come together, be it to learn or to worship, to live in community. And whilst the nourishment is important, what is more important is the relationship we develop with each other along the way. Hebrews chapter 12 verse 14 says, "Make every effort to live in peace with everyone." Every effort. That's not do the bare minimum, that's do all you can. Some of us are in a privileged position and can do more than others. Peace has to be about community and equality. It has to be about either an absence of power or, better still, an equal distribution of power between all people. It's about shared ownership and partnership, collectiveness and collaboration, or, as Philippians 2 says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others. That's real inclusion, and it requires courage. It takes courage to give up or to share power. It takes courage to use privilege for the benefits of others. It takes courage to name that change is needed and to bring about change in ourselves and the communities we're part of in order to be truly inclusive and to recognise the humanity of anyone who is in any way different to us and our inherited norms. It also takes courage for those the systems haven't favoured to keep fighting and to be true to themselves, to remember and claim dignity and worth, to not conform to the societal norms and to work together with us to change the system. If you have ever felt like you've had to fight and struggle against the system, or that you've had to fit in and conform in order to be loved and included, may you know your infinite beauty and value. May you know that you are no less wonderful in the eyes of God and in the eyes of those of us who want to do better. May you see changes in our world that mean you have belonging and inclusion in the communities we share together, where those who have gone before have been excluded. If you're like me, becoming aware of your privilege, may we together use it well for the benefit of those who are less privileged by Western society. May we also be aware of our infinite beauty and value in our shared humanity. May we all together be part of bringing about changes that make our communities courageously inclusive.